Alright, to kick things off, I'm starting with Raspbian Jessie Lite. I've went ahead and downloaded the zip file. You can see it here at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and do a fresh install on a Raspberry Pi 3. I'm not going to go through that process. That's for another video. But once I get that installed, I will pull SSH up and I'll show you how to do everything via command line. Stay tuned. Alright, so I've got my image downloaded. I went ahead and extracted it because it did come in a zip file, so you do extract here, and then what's left once it's extracted is the image file. So on Linux, of course I run Linux, everything here runs on Linux. I'm going to right click it and then open it with the disk image writer. I've already got my SD card inserted, so I'm going to search for it. There it is, 7.9 gigabyte drive. That's the SD card. It gives you a little warning that the image is smaller than the target device, and it always should be. And then I'm going to start restoring. Are you sure? Yes, I am. So go ahead and put in the password. Let it start restoring. You see it give you a little timer here as far as about how long it's going to take. I'm doing this just so I can show you guys that I am doing it with a fresh copy. Nothing's going to be pre-installed outside of what I downloaded from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. So I'll see you again when that finishes. Alright, now that the image has finished writing to the disk, it actually automatically mounts those partitions. One thing I always found that was interesting about the way the Raspberry Pi images mount is that there is a boot partition as well as a data partition where your actual root Linux file structure goes. So between those two partitions, you have a Raspberry Pi, or you have Raspbian. So, alright, I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the computer. I'm going to eject both mounts. And then I'm going to put this on the Pi, and next time I see you, I will be SSHing into the Raspberry Pi. Alright, I've put the SD card in the Raspberry Pi 3. One thing to note is the Pi 3 is a bit of a beast. Recommended 3 amps on the power supply. I've got 2, so it was kind of flagging me with some power deficiency icons, but one of the reasons why I selected Raspbian Jessie Lite is because I think the GUI just bogs it down. I prefer to run servers without GUIs, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so pull up a terminal here. I'm on my main computer. However, I've got the Raspberry Pi up and running on a monitor right next to me, and at boot up I don't even have a computer I don't even have a keyboard or a mouse hooked up to it, but it will give you the IP prior to asking for the login. So I'm just going to sudo SSH, and I don't know why sudo. I guess I don't need a sudo. We're just going to SSH, and the default user is Pi, and so I'm going to SSH to Pi at 192.168.0.123, which is the IP, and connection refused. Dang it! Alright, so apparently SSH, I'm guessing on the new version of Raspbian Jessie is going to need some modifications to get in. So I will hook up my keyboard and mouse to the Pi and see what's going on. Okay, and we're back. So I logged into the Pi, first did an install SSH, and it looks like it already had it installed. Oh, awesome. My baked potato is ready. SSH has already been installed, but it wasn't running, so I had to do a sudo service SSH start to start the service, and now let's try to log in again. There we go. So I guess on the new version of Jessie, SSH is not running by default, which I, if memory serves, believe that it used to. Okay, so the default user was Pi, the default password was Raspberry. I'm not going to change any users and passwords for this tutorial. I'm just going to keep it Pi and Raspberry. You guys, highly advise, if you are going to use this as a production server, protect it, change your users, change your passwords, don't let anybody log in as root. Alright, so let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a sudo apt-get install Apache. Apache 2 is going to be our web server. So we'll go ahead and get that going, and I'm going to do it one at a time. I know you can set it up so that it will install multiple things at the same time, but I'm just going to do it individually, that way I can talk about each one. So we're going to do a sudo apt-get install Apache 2 and get that running. And again, Apache 2 basically sets up a web server on the Pi, basically puts it under a directory called var www, and we'll either put a HTML folder there or just host files right out of that www directory. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and when this completes and is waiting on me, I will resume. Alright, so Apache 2 has installed. Next thing I'm going to go ahead and put in is we'll install PHP 5. So I will just do that sudo apt-get install PHP 5, and we'll let that go in. Yes. Alright, so again, like last time, oh, actually that catches me almost every time. Good rule of thumb, anytime you do a fresh install of any Linux system, do an update. Make sure that you've got the latest. So I'm going to do a sudo apt-get update, and it's going to do its thing. Depending on how out of date it is, this could be a while. So again, well, let me see here. Okay, I'll go ahead and pause the video, and I'll touch base with you when it's done. Alright, we're all done there with the update, so now I'm going to do another sudo apt-get, but I'm going to go back to installing stuff, and we'll see if we can get PHP 5 in this time. And looks like we'll go, so go ahead and do that install. Alright, PHP 5 is done. Next up, I like to install MySQL server and clients. So MySQL-server space MySQL-client. Okay, so in this scenario, we're installing two different programs at the same time. To do that, what you could have done all along is just name of the program and then put a space between each program that you want to install. So then sudo apt-get install MySQL server and client, hit enter, and throughout this process it's going to ask me to put in a password for the main root user, and when we get to that point I will resume the video. Oh, they have to wait that long. Okay, so it's asking you for a password for the SQL database root user, not anything for the Raspberry Pi itself, but specifically for your database. So I'm going to keep it the same, Raspberry, same as the Pi, repeat, and then it will continue to install MySQL server and then client. Alright, so MySQL server, MySQL client is now in and complete. Last one I'm going to install is Php My Admin. So sudo apt-get install Php My Admin, just like that. We'll send it, and yes. Alright, again, I will see you guys when that completes. Okay, here on the PHP admin installation, it is prompting you, asking you what type of web server you have, because the PHP My Admin interface is web-based, and if you guys remember from earlier in the video, it is in fact Apache 2. So we're going to mark that and hit OK, and we're going to continue installing. Alright, got another prompting as far as configuring PHP My Admin. Configure database for PHP My Admin with dbconfig-common, yes. And we are going to provide the password that we gave earlier for the MySQL server. And I will drop back in when we're done. Alright, so PHP My Admin is in, and now it's time to start testing everything out, make sure it works. So let's just walk through this process and see what we run into, and hopefully by the end we'll have a website up, a database, and we'll have access to PHP My Admin. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a web browser. We're going to check and make sure that the default web page for the Pi is functional. And we will look at 123. Yes. Alright. Okay, so this is the page that you'll get if you have a successful install of your web server. So that basically means that anything, and I'll show you what directory we need to access. So I'm still logged into the Pi. I'm going to go to the actual web directory. So I'm going to, let's just change directories. Var www, and we'll see if it's HTML. It is. Alright, so var www HTML on Jessie. Is the website directory. That index.html, if I write it out by using the cat command, I can show you this is basically what you saw on the web page here. So we'll just scroll up to the top here, and you can just kind of, I'm trying to find some text that you can correlate with the page that we just saw. It's all CSS. Let's see if we can find some text. Alright, this is the default welcome page used to test the correct operation of the Apache 2 server. Yep, that looks like it. And just to make sure, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and modify it on the fly, and we'll use nano to do that. Nano index.html, because that's the name of the file. So at the top it says Apache 2 default domain, it works, and for the title, that's what you see actually up here in this tab. Just to verify and prove that it is us, we'll put Apache 90999999, and since we're nano, we're going to Control O to write out, and then I'll Control X to exit, and then we'll refresh this, and you should see that Apache 999999 up at the top. And if that doesn't work for you, let's see if we can change the title just as easily. Alright, well, the title's going to be a little bit past the CSS. So let's scroll down, Apache 2 default, Apache 999999 default page, Control O, Enter, and then Control X, and then let's refresh. And bada bing. Okay, so we know our web server works, but I actually want to deploy a website. So we're going to go free CSS, and free CSS works for me. Let's go to free CSS templates, and ooh, wow, isn't this lucky? First template, I love it. Let's put it on our server. So click on it. I don't even need to demo it. I know that's the website for me. I'm going to download that zip file. So what I'm downloading right here is a zip file with all the components on it. that'll make that web page work. Alright, so I know that downloaded into my default or downloads directory. I'm going to copy that over using SFTP. Anytime you have SSH installed on a server, you can also SFTP, which is utilizing that secure connection to transfer files. So I've opened a second terminal, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm in the downloads directory. So first let me find out where I am. Current working directory, I should be in my home directory. Now I'm going to go to CD downloads. And then hit enter. Alright, so in here I'll have this got ya free website. So it's in this folder that I'm in, so I'm going to go ahead and just SFTP over to that web server, using pi at 192.168.0.123. And I'm going to connect, yes. Oops. Wrong password. Alright, so now I'm connected. So basically, now that I'm connected, and you notice it was very similar to SSH, but instead of SSH pi at that IP, it's SFTP pi at that IP. And then I'm just going to say put got ya. Oh, it's not letting me do tab complete, so I'm going to have to spell all that out. Zip. Alright. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I see it here, so I just gotta try to figure out why it was not uploading before, and it might be because of all those special characters in that name. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename it just to save myself some trouble, because you notice whenever you have, and that's one thing I'm glad I get the opportunity to talk about, is whenever you have a space in command line, that does not mix well with Linux. Like how this is named, gotcha, free website template, etc., etc. They have to put these escape characters before the spaces. Now, yes, I could use Nautilus to tap into my SFTP service on my Pi, but I specifically wanted to keep it command line just to kind of show you the different tools and tricks you could use just to get stuff done. So I'm going to rename this gotcha blah 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 to just gotcha.zip. And so I'm using the move command, and since I'm in my directory, I don't need to call for sudo. And let's just call it that. Alright, so now I'm going to call for grep again. And the issue I had with grep before is I put the star dot in, and grep actually looks for literal characters. Wasn't interpreting that asterisk as any zip, because it's already doing that when you just put in the ZIP. So I've called for it again. Now I've got my gotcha zip, which is named a little better for this type of STP. So I'm just going to go straight back to the SFTP. To 168.0 should have it memorized by now. So we're gonna SFTP over. Fantastic. Connected. And here we are. So now I'm just gonna ls again. Sorry, local ls, and I should see that gt file there. Gotcha zip. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on the server, which it's going to by default go to Pi's home directory. So we're going to put pi gotcha zip, and it's uploading, and it's there, and that's easy. Done. Exit, and go back to the Pi. Let's take a look at my home directory, and there it is, gotcha zip. So I'm going to sudo Actually, I'm just gonna unzip first. I'm gonna unzip the file first and then I'll move it over. Alright, so we will sudo. Alright, so unzip that file and let me take a look at it real quick and see how it laid it on the system. Alright, so you can see it has unzipped it to my current directory. As you can see now I have this gotcha file here. So let's do ls gotcha. Alright, so I have these files here that I want to copy up a directory, so I'm gonna do it this way. We're gonna copy star.star. Actually, we need to be in that directory first. So now we will copy, well, sudo. We have to sudo because we're not in our directory. So first thing I'm going to do is take all the files that are in here and copy it up a directory. That's what the double dots are for. So this will get the files, and actually I'm going to move and not copy. So sudo mv all files up a directory. Alright, so now when we do our ls, all it is these directories here. So again, I'm kind of doing it the long way, but this is just to show you kind of how to utilize the tools and just how to get around in Linux. So we're going to move. Alright, so we're going to leave off the options on the move. So move image next. We're going to move JavaScript files. I'm assuming that's what that is. Alright, so everything's out of this directory and into the HTML directory. So what you're going to notice is we did have a index.html in there, which was that default website, this one. But since it was overwritten by the new website that I put in when we refresh, gotcha. So now we have this lovely new website that's deployed on 192.168.0.123, and it works. It's great. It's fantastic. You can do all sorts of stuff here. So, oh snap! All right, so refresh. Got your website going. Now we're gonna see if MySQL works by actually logging into Php My Admin. So we're going to look at that same IP address, 192.168.0.123, and we are going to access Php My Admin, and we're going to see if it works right out of the box for us. And lovely, it does. So root and Raspberry is what I used. And trouble logging into the MySQL server. There we go. I just have to type it right. Okay, so loveliness. We've got into our database. We can add databases. We can add tables. Whatever we need to do. Let's check Php Functionality real quick. That'll be the last thing that we check. And actually, tell you what, before I get out of here, let me go ahead and make sure that I can build a database. We'll call it tech, and we will create it. Alright, so there's my tech database. See if I can create a table 1, and again, if you don't need to put spaces in, don't put spaces in. I'm going to give it 6 columns. We're going to go, and lovely, we have, oh, sorry. So we're just gonna give it 2 columns because I gotta fill out all this stuff before it'll work. So I'm just giving some bogus column names, and we'll see if we can save it like that without any other details. And we can. All right. Now that was not an ideal way to build a table. You do want to have a unique field, auto increment field, so you can go back and edit that data. But I've done that video already, so I'm not going to get into details. This was just checking, make sure we could build a database, make sure we could build a table. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is check the PHP functionality. So the way we're going to do that is I'm in the HTML folder, as you can see. So I'm going to build a file called PHP info, and it's typically what I do, and I'm going to call the PHP info function, and if PHP is running, it will be able to parse that information with just that one command. So sudo nano, we're going to call on nano to build a file called php info.php, and in that we're going to go php and php info, and then we're going to close that up. And I love how I always get that backwards. Alright, so we're going to save it, enter, write it out. Okay, so now I have a file called php info php. If it works, then at 192.168.0.123 slash php info.php, we should get that. So if this wasn't working, we would not get this page with all the PHP info information. Alright, so this is my Pi, this is PHP running, this is my PHP My Admin running, and this is my web server right here. So one-stop server shop on your Raspberry Pi 3. It's fairly quick, it's fairly responsive. If you wanted to build a file server, I'll save that for another video. I'm sure this one's long enough. So this has been R.L. Smith with Digital Bytes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time.